morning show. My name is Andre Hill, and we have our co-host, Chairman Terrence Lake, in Detroit, Michigan. How you doing this morning?
Well, Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing fine. It's a beautiful day as far as the look, sunny and all that. But to be out there, it's still cold, very cold. But other
So,
than that, everything is going all right.
so the question, the whole question is how cold is.
It's cold. I'm not saying cold, cold, because psychologically, when you see that sun shining bright, it just makes you feel better, especially when you're out there and you have to be out there. But from inside looking out, it's beautiful.
All right, as long as you stay in the house, heat on. Huh?
Right.
All right. Also, we have our engineer co-host, Andre Hill Jr. What's going on, man?
Everything is all good. We got a little chill front that came down here to Florida, but other than that, it's all bright and sunny as usual.
Yeah, I think Sherman got jealous and sent his cousin down here to mess with us. Yes, sir. So we got an interesting topic here. Two topics, and I'm going to explain what I did announce on Friday. Good afternoon, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Straight Talk Network. You can get us on YouTube. You can if you go to my Facebook page on the Andre Hill Senior, just click on the link. It'll take you to our YouTube page to watch this show, and you can watch other shows that we've done in the past. It'll help you catch up to what's really going on in the universe and on our little third rock from the sun, planet Earth, Gaia. Also, it's how do you know? This is the question, and I gotta back this up. How do you know if you are an Aboriginal of the Americas? Now, this is a big question, and it was diluted by the Caucasians that came from Europe a long time ago because they switched the game up and put a lot of emphasis on the Mongoloid, so-called Native Americans, migrated from Asia a few hundred, thousand or so years ago. And they met and ran into the Black Aboriginals that have been here since the beginning. And so we know that this Asian cut a deal with the Catholic Church, and they end up being beneficiaries of the Aboriginal Americans with dark melanated. All right, so
You're getting a lot of breakup, a lot of static. Can you hear it on your end?
I hear the feedback. Got any adjustments, engineer?
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it. Work on it as we go.
All right. Okay, so how do you know if you are an Aboriginal of the Americas, and why you can't trust the DNA analysis by other cultures? Also, why the current administration can't have any Aboriginals of the Americas in his cabinet. Now, when I did a fact check, there is one melanated person, well, it's like two, but I'm gonna break down why they can't be significant for Aboriginals all over the world. All right, so the odd correlation is the reason you are seeing a lot of melanated people in TV commercials. So the comparison is odd, but when I line it up, you'll understand. Also, read Lucifer's Revenge.net. Otherwise, you will perish with your master when those chickens come home to roost. Tune in and be enlightened. All right. Okay. So if we go back to the original topic of how do you know if you're Aboriginal? I tell a lot of people that are interested in joining our tribe, United Aboriginal American Republic. Well, am I Aboriginal or how do I prove it? Well, it's very difficult to prove it because the information has been obscured as to our true history. And it was done intentionally back in the time, and it was put on the books in Virginia. All the slaves that were conquered were reclassified as Negroes. And even the Africans that were brought over here, a few of them, in relation to a large population of Aboriginals that were here, they were also classified as Negroes. And then the unique thing happened back in the 60s with Jesse Jackson and Lewis, forget his name, with our African ancestry without understanding that the original extraterrestrials or ancestors who set up Genesis projects all over this planet had to follow a particular menu. And I'm going to show you and demonstrate to you in some scientific means of the different cranial designs. So I did a little research, and of course I had to access Google. And when I did the research, the knowledge or the understanding of how do you recognize if you're an Aboriginal American, it's been obscured once again because it's it's almost like the agenda knew, well, we have to cut off all the paths to them finding out, what their heritage is or their ancestry. So this is what I ran across. I couldn't find anything in relation to the Black Aboriginals of the Americas. So I just typed in Black Americans. And so it did have a prime. It says that Black Americans tend to have a cranial bone structure characterized by a thicker skull with dense bones, particularly in the parietal, and the occipital regions. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Occipital region.
Occipital, yeah, I see the eye now. Often with a more rectangular shaped organ and a wider nasal aperture, resulting in a slightly more pronounced facial projection. I said, okay, that's interesting. So I looked at some of the Asians and the so-called Native Americans, and I couldn't find a correlation. And we're going to do more research, and we encourage, those anthropologists, melanated people that were programmed and brainwashed into maintaining the narrative of the Caucasian dominance all over the world. And so they moved away from focusing on showing the connection with the Mongoloid Native Americans and the Black Aboriginals that were already here. You have something to say?
Yeah, let me just add, let me help you out here and add to some description of us when certain Europeans were coming here in the 1500s. In other words, because this is some of the first times they were coming over here. Remember, Manifest Destiny, the Spanish Inquisition of Moors, all of this happened in the 1400s, the late 1400s at that. But I think this guy is Italian, last name Verrazano, and this is what he described when he came to the shores of the Americas. When they approached the American coast, Verrazano wrote, we realized that it was inhabited, for huge fires had been built on the seashores. When they anchored and rowed boats toward the shore, people appeared. The indigenous people watched them carefully, approached cautiously, and most, Verrazano reported, were friendly and generous. In other words, talking about us. That was our problem. We were too damn friendly and generous. Offering Europeans food, and on one occasion, saving a sailor who had become close to drowning. They were dark in color, Verrazano wrote, not unlike Ethiopians. So let me say this again. He wrote they were dark in color, not unlike Ethiopians. See, back at that time, the word Africa didn't exist. And for most cases, they referred to the entire continent of Africa as Ethiopia. So when he says Ethiopians in this time, he's talking about they look like people from Africa. He said, with thick black hair, not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail. In other words, who's tying our afros back behind our head. Been doing it, right? As for the physique of these men, they were well proportioned of medium height, a little taller than we are. He said they're not very strong, but have sharp cunning and they are agile and swift runners. He thought they resembled the Orientals. Now we say Orientals, especially even back then. He's probably talking about Southeast Asians, and most of them were dark skinned as well, right? So that's a description. Those are the types of descriptions that you need to go and search to realize the truth about what they were encountering when they first got here, which was us. That's it.
Hey, Chairman, can you weigh in on that at all?
Well, I could relate to the pigmentation, with the Aboriginals being dark, even the Native Americans, and as you say, with us being the original Native Americans, but you would definitely have a dark pigmentation because you're out in the sun all the time. They worship the sun god, So I could definitely relate to the pigmentation of the skin.
Absolutely. All right, so now, once again, from a metaphysical perspective or a scientific perspective, understanding how civilizations, when they come to a new planet and start off a new species, there is a prime directive, there is an agreement, a menu of how they're going to develop the species, because they know at some point all of these civilizations are going to eventually meet each other, either in conflict or in peace. And, nature, as nature would have it, some men are going to be attracted to the women from this tribe and vice versa. And, so the Guardians knew this. And they also understood at some point in the spiritual evolution of a species, they will merge and start gravitating into one, the human race. And so when that happens, those guardians or extraterrestrials or those advanced civilizations know that at that point, they are required to step back and allow us to continue to evolve as a species. That means that we become responsible. We stop blowing each other up, stop raping each other, lying, cheating, murdering, and stealing from each other. When we reach that spiritual level of frequency, then we become a civilized species, and then we will be accepted in the universal scheme of or the Galactic Council as an intelligent, civilized species. And so that's where we are right now. All right. So, I'm go ahead and stick with this to show you some verbiage in terms of the Africans or Ethiopians or what the people from that particular continent of Akibaland, the original name. Is that right?
It's hard to say. Africa had a lot of names at one point.
Okay, so some of the features consistent with African ancestry are a projecting profile, a depressed nasal root, an obtuse nasal angle, a short anterior nasal spine, a bilateral gutter at the lower part of the nasal aperture, a somewhat rectangular shaped palate, and blade-like incisors. I don't know if my nose is blocking me. Incisors, those are the teeth in the upper jaw. So there's a slight variation. And, Aboriginals from the Americas can see that in our African brothers. We see the cranial difference, and this is how you tell the real true ancestry of the Genesis projects that develop the particular cultures on different parts of Earth. But the original scientists knew to stick within a menu because that's part of the treaty agreement for different races that came to this planet to operate a species on the surface. Meaning, if you operate on the surface, your pineal gland has to be fully operational and not calcified, and it has to protect you from the sun. So all of these groups set up all over the planet, all these alien groups initiated Genesis projects, and it was just like a laboratory. They had built fences around them until they got the species up and running. And at certain times, of course, the primary objective was to use them as a labor force to do things, extract minerals, develop cultures. It wasn't just to extract minerals. That was part of the exchange of technology with the humans, but and they encouraged them to develop cultures and move in the direction of becoming civilized. So it takes thousands of years for a species to reach the point where we are right now. That is the particular part that what we're focusing on. A lot of Aboriginals, and I meet and I talk and I counsel people all the time. Well, I heard that my grandmother was Indian, or I heard I have Indian in me. So here's the deal about that. The word Indian came from, and this is hearsay. When Columbus saw the Native Americans, he thought he was in India. Now
Right.
this,
I say, right, you're right.
he was in the Caribbean. He didn't even reach the Americas. He was in, well, the Americas is in the Caribbean also, but he didn't reach the landmass of what now is known as the United States of Corporate America. And so he mislabeled, and that word stuck, Indians. So this is what I'm saying to our Aboriginal people here in the Americas. You are Aboriginal. Yeah, I know you were fooled to think that the only Aboriginals was down in Australia. Aboriginal, once again, meaning from the beginning. So you are from the beginning here in the Americas. You were here. We had civilizations. We were civilized. We had architecture. We had engineering. We had a lot of things. A lot of these old buildings that were constructed with advanced technology, they weren't constructed by your ancestors. And the Caucasians, with their mission from the Pope to destroy and convert, was to basically cover up all of that history, leading you to understanding who you are. And that's why even now, today, on the books in Virginia, I don't think they removed it yet, but there was a law passed that you could not be called Aboriginal. You were reclassified as Native. Can you expand on that, man?
Which part?
Well, when you look at the people in the Americas right now who were converted from Aboriginals to Negroes, then from Negroes to Blacks, and we always had the story that I heard my grandmama was Indian,
Yeah. No, you're right. There's a lot of let's say laws on the book that shed some light on what we were now deeming and discovering as the denationalization and reclassification of us as Aboriginals in this country. If I knew you were going to ask me that, I would have pulled some sources. You see what I'm saying? But we can put a pin in that for next week's show, because the masses of us need to be educated on those particular things, because that's the that is the facts. That's the proof of what your your Aboriginal history is in this country. Now, here's the thing. Now, what I find interesting right now, where we are, is you got 2 or 3 groups that are going to attempt to discourage you from realizing that you are Aboriginal. Of course, you're going to have some groups of Caucasians. Some of them may be in the government. Reason why is because the United States government has either access or all of the documentations of treaties, history logs, census records, especially from the late 1800s, because mind you, a lot of the reclassification along with the census, because we had to, we couldn't mark our records on the census as the truth. We had to mark it as in whatever category they had available on the census. And before they determined those categories, they sat down and thought about it very thoroughly on how we're going to classify these people. So, so you're going to have people in the government. You're also going to have ignorant, uneducated, poor Caucasians who are going to say, well, now y'all were just slaves, because they get a inferiority complex kick out of referring to us as slaves. In other words, they will say, no, y'all ain't nothing but slaves, and y'all ain't gonna never be nothing but slaves. That's the mentality and projection. But now that's Caucasians. Now you're gonna have some Black people. You're gonna have some other Aboriginals who we're gonna have to debate to some extent. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not debating with none of them. We know who we are, and we know what we're gonna do about it. Now, in the event though, what you are gonna encounter is a lot of Black people saying, y'all some pretendians. You know what I mean? And even on the other side too, even on the Aboriginal side, you're gonna hear some people saying, I ain't African, as if being African is a bad thing. We don't do neither one. We don't do either one. We know we are connected and related to our family in Africa. Point blank, period. Then the third group is you're going to have these Mongoloid natives. They're going to be some of the main ones right now who are going to combat you on your own Aboriginal lineage, because they have all of the welfare system set up with the government, and they don't want to compete with you for that. And or they want to say that we're stealing their history, right? So these are the things that we face within our own reclassification and denationalization. But either way, there is when it's necessary, when it's appropriate, there's a diplomatic way to deal with all of those groups. And again, it's not about necessarily convincing them. The truth is out there, and our actions, our building will convince everybody. I'll end the plane right there.
Okay, so if you load that video of this young lady, I was really excited about that, because I love seeing the young generation get on board our agenda. Our agenda is very simple. We have seen the Democrats and the Republicans play this good cop, bad cop game with us for a very long time. And they still have been supporting white supremacy, both sides. And so we're getting to the question of why we can't trust the DNA analysis. And this young lady put it in plain perspective. And check her out. Go ahead.
Tell me the truth, like, yeah, that's who you are. Be for real. I just don't understand how when I tell people that I'm Afro-Indigenous, everybody always want to see proof, everybody want to see paperwork, everybody want to see a DNA test. So you mean to tell me I need to show you paperwork proving who I am, paperwork provided by the same people that took our ancestors on a walk the Trail of Tears. From down here, Alabama, where I'm from, born, bred, raised, all the way up north, reclassified a lot of us as Negroes, brainwashed our children and erased as much of our history as they could, sold each other the right to claim Indian on paper for $5, stole all of our land thereafter, and continue to reign under a system that only benefits themselves. You really think when they stole all our land, if I swab the inside of my mouth, they gonna tell me the truth like, yeah, that's who you are? Be for real.
So I get extremely excited when I hear young people. Chairman, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, she's right. They're not going to tell you because they fear that knowledge.
Okay.
They're not going to tell you who you are. You know, it's all about control and the majority rule. And when they realize that we are the majority, why are they going to give you information where they think in the back of their mind that you might overpower them and take over and put you in a situation the way they put you in a situation. They don't want the roles to reverse. Or we're not trying to reverse. You know, when we came to planet Earth, we circumvented the whole planet. You know, we went to North America, we went to South America, we were over in East Asia and the southern part of Asia, moved all the way back to Africa because we knew that was the best place for us. If you're going to be a space bearing country and you're going to go to another planet, you're going to try to seek the best land there is for your establishment. Then you seek out other territories on that planet, but you want to stay where it's the best, and then you go from there. So that's one reason why you're not going to get the true history. You know, you're going to get the manufactured history. It's like with the Bible, you know, the Bible is a good book, but there's a lot of fallacies in there and stories and parables, you know, and you still got people today believe we all come from Adam and Eve. How can that be? You know, you look at the artifact and it shows you that we come from different societies, you know, so that's, you know, man's trickery to tell you what he wants to tell you to control you. When you start thinking for yourself, you can add up 1 and 1 is 2. Nobody have to tell you that.
Indeed.
You know, I'll land that plane.
All right. So, like once again, I get really excited when I hear the younger generations. They're searching for the truth. They know that our generation, we were bamboozled, and even the generation before us was bamboozled, hoodwinked, and led astray. And so, you know, there is an old saying plagiarized by the so-called Bible that everything in darkness shall soon come to light. And right now, we need you to apply your critical thinking to understand that the light in this period of revelation is starting to reveal all the truths. So that means that white supremacy or one culture dominating another culture with hatred and manipulation, lying and cheating, all of those tactics are going to be exposed. And when that happens, the culture that's promoting that will start to descend and even be eradicated from the planet. It's just nature. You know, if you continue to use negative energy to validate your existence without being in balance with the universe, it's just like a virus. It's gonna run its course and then it vanishes because we start building up natural antibodies to fight it. So what I'm saying to the melanated people all over the world, you know, we tried to explain last week on those Caucasian bodies, the souls in those bodies in a previous life, they were melanated. And so we recommended that, you know, to reverse that generational curse, things that they can do on I think last week's show to start to change that trajectory in a positive way of finding balance as a spirit. You're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to come back around. So you know, we advising all melanated people, you don't have to prove, you just look in the mirror. And if you got melanin in your skin and your cranial, you know what we look like. You know, there's a difference. We know what our African brothers and sisters look like. And they were operating with a slightly different phenocode in Africa because that was a different Genesis project. The Genesis project in here in the Americas, they use a slightly different genome code because those ancestors may have come from another part of the universe, but they all were melanated, and they had an agreement that we're going to develop, we're going to kick this species off on this planet, and at the appropriate time, you know, in our exchange program, we have to let hands off. Now, all we're saying to you Aboriginal Americans, especially from my generation, our young children, they are hungry to take control of their own destiny, but they can't do it alone. We need the elders from our generation to get involved. You can reach out to us on Facebook if you're interested in being involved. If you see what we're explaining to you, they need us. We have the resources. They don't have the resources. They're in a hamster wheel that has been, the amps have been increased from 60 miles an hour to 90 miles an hour. So they're having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to survive. And that is because that culture that wants to lie, cheat, and steal know that it's time for them to wake up. So they're going to keep them so busy trying to survive, they don't have time to wake up and pay attention to how do we change this narrative. So the elders, we are required to come together, and especially those of you that are the chosen ones, or you're a star seed, or you know that when you were a child, you were different. You were here for one particular reason, and that is to join the collective of other star seeds or other chosen ones to implement a program of manifestation as a collective to demonstrate by example. And that is how all of the other melanated people in your inner circle, your outer circle, through the ripple effect, will start to wake up. You can't expect all melanated people to wake up at the same time. We all wake up, we all communicate through different senses, through sight, through smell, touch, hearing, you know. And so we have to rely on that natural order, but the natural order requires the elders to come together and put together a program that's going to be effective for our children. Otherwise, the Trump administration or the negative administration is moving in a position to hold on to the ignorance of white supremacy, because it's only a survival. Hey, I like being on top. I don't want to give it up. You know, I don't care about the natural laws of balance. I like being on top. I like seeing other people work while I enjoy the fruits of their labor. Hey, Chairman.
Chairman got it. Chairman got it.
Chairman, you got this one?
Well, you know, you hit it right on the head, you know, like they want to change the educational system. They want to get rid of Black history. You know, this is our month, February. They give us 1 month to say what we got to say to, you know, show us who we are. And after that, okay, it's back to their perspective, you know. But the point is that Black history is every day. You know, what Blacks have done has been etched in stone. We've done so much that they don't even want to tell us. We have to dig and find out for ourselves, you know. But we got to come together and make it to the point where they cannot erase no history, especially if it's real history. Fake history, yeah, let's get rid of that. You know, it's like when they say Jesus was white with stringy hair. Even Putin say, no, he's Black with short, kinky hair. You know, Putin mad at the world now, so he gonna tell the truth. You know, figure he gonna get even because of what situation he's in. But you know, the truth is the truth. It should be known. When we really make that good full contact with extraterrestrials, they got a plethora of information that we're going to be exposed to know about the real history of this planet. And it's going to happen soon. You know, it's going to happen very soon, sooner than what most people think. You know, I know when our grandparents was living, they were thinking, oh, Jesus gonna come. We ain't waiting on Jesus. We waiting on those extraterrestrials that we see, that we know they got some information that we're gonna absorb and take us to another level. As a human species, that's what's going to happen. And then all this other stuff is just gonna be put to the side. But the truth is the light. If you got the truth, you can see. If you don't have the light, you can't see in darkness. Darkness is there to rest and go to sleep for a while, you know. But when you wake up, you got to start anew. You got to continue to move forward and conquer what you will. And you do that in the light, even though now we got artificial light. But, you know, figuratively speaking, you know what I'm talking about. The truth is the light. I'll land that plane.
So, Junior, what do you think about this young lady, and what would you say to her generation? Because she seems like she was like in her early 20s. What would you say to them about maybe joining our nation? We're developing opportunities for self-sustainable housing.
Yeah, let me get into that.
Go ahead.
So, what I like and respect about that young sister is, you know, she's already in the mind state of knowing who she is, and that's important. Let's just look at the natural cycles of life here on this planet that we've put into a scientific format that we now call astrology. Right? That's what astrology is. It's just a measurement of a sophisticated measurement of nature and how we resonate with nature as energetic beings. Right? So the first sign is Aries, and Aries' calling card is I am. In other words, is understanding, making the declaration that you are what you want to be in this existence. All right. And so that's where a lot of our people are on this particular path of understanding who they are. We had to start all the way back at the beginning. We had to start all the way back at Aries and reclaim our identity. When in most cultures, I mean, unless they've been lied to, they're well past understanding what their identity is. So let's just think about that for a minute. You know, in this whole war, we were stripped down to not even knowing our identity anymore, and constantly being transgressed against, to be told, you know, we were something that, you know, they made up. But this young sister represents the waking up of all of our people, and that is the first step. Again, knowing who you are. Now, what I would say to her in her generation, which, you know, technically I guess she's a mom, she may be a few years, you know, maybe a decade younger than me, but we technically the same generation. The first step is understanding your identity, and as awesome is mandatory. You do have to know who you are first, right? Then we need to start gathering and building. That's what I am going to convey to my generation and those up under us. We were also stripped of all of our civilization and tangible expressions, right? Sister Kalia, who's watching, said they built farms and all kinds of stuff on top of the mounds that we were so good at building here in this country. So all of that history is gone, all right? But we have to get back to that, because at this point, you know, realizing who we are, next step on that is becoming self-sustainable, right? In other words, while we're separating and detaching from the false identities that were given to us by transgressors, we're also wanting to separate from the societal constraints that they put on us as well. So in other words, we're very well skilled, always have been, on creating civilization anywhere on this planet. We don't need to rely on a parasitic regime for our basic resources every day to live and thrive. And so with our tribal nation state, United Aboriginal American Republic, that's going to be, our main, one of our main attributes, development of self-sustainable communities. Why? Because we need to go back into an incubation period of realizing, what we're capable of, going within and bringing that out and expressing it back out to the world like we've always done. Behind enemy lines, we've been doing that for a parasitic regime. We've been pumping energy or having our energy siphoned from us to feed their system, just like in the Matrix. Just like in the Matrix, when Neo saw the fields, when Morpheus took him to see the fields, and the entire energy system for the machines were a bunch of humans and millions of pods. That's similar to what we're dealing with now. Like, we're being used to fill that system, and it's not reciprocating at all. Right? It's not reciprocating at all.
Kunta Kinte and Toby.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to be about. That's what we're going to be a beacon for. Again, I don't think we have to convince anybody of anything. Let's just do the works, and the works will convince everybody. All right. I know I mentioned it sometimes on the show, but whatever that movie is, I don't know what movie this came from. Maybe it was Field of Dreams or something like that. I don't know. But that saying, if you build it, they will come. I'm pretty confident on that. Every time I talk to somebody about, let me say this, every time I talk to an Aboriginal about being a part of a self-sustainable development, they say, I'm all for it. And they even say, well, I don't know how to get started, but I'm more than willing. And truth told is, let me say something to everybody out here. If you don't know how to start it, that's fine. But your will to do so is great. Your will to want to live like that is great, because that means you're resonating with the Most High in nature. Right? That means it's like you are sensing, like, wait a minute, this type of system we live in now, it was so wasteful. Willfully or unwillfully ignorant to just keep running on this hamster wheel and creating all kind of contamination and pollution for the ecosystem around us, then let alone polluting our own ecosystem within. Y'all are understanding, y'all are resonating with the Most High and saying, okay, this is not sustainable for our future generations, which is technically who we do this for. All right. So I'll land that right there.
And we've got lots of information to work with. If you don't know, there are books, plenty of books that you're not being exposed to. But certain societies and cultures are exposed to this here, even though they're not doing anything about it. But we want to do something about it to make it self-sustainable. Okay.
So I want to say something. I have been interviewing close to 100 women, mostly 98% Aboriginal women. And they all said, oh, yeah, my grandmother was Indian, this or that. And I was talking to one particular woman, and I'm an astrologist, so I want to find out what her birth coordinates are. She said, well, I don't believe in astrology. I don't like being categorized in astrology. So, I was very calm, because I get that a lot, from the so-called Christian groups that were programmed that astrology was evil. And I try to explain to them that astrology is math and science. If you use it for evil, then it's evil. If you use it for good, then it's good. It's up to the individual. But anyway, I want to say this to young chiefs and leaders out there, Black men, Aboriginal men. The reason you need to get with us and join this movement, we're going to start preparing you with that knowledge to understand how to be a chief, to understand how to write the narrative for your tribe and protect it and provide for it and bring it back and let our women process it, because our women are the first teachers. They're the nurturers. And without them being in their proper balance, our family structure is lost. But this is something that I experienced with this sister. She was like, nah, I don't want to hear about that astrology, and any man I get involved with, especially at my age, he needs to have an 800 credit score. So I said, well, sister, first of all, I know that we have left our women unprotected for 400 years, and you've had to mutate and do all these crazy things to survive in this hideous system. What we're working on is self-sustaining, self-sustainable communities that take our women out of this hamster wheel, bring them into our tribe, and let them go ooh-wah, ooh-sa, just take a break, and sit back and reflect on what you want to do with your life, things that you're good in, whether it's arts and crafts, cooking, sewing, or teaching children, or whatever you want to do. And then at that point, once you have a break to just recollect yourself and start healing, then we can start moving towards building some industry to exchange with other melanated nations that understand that our planet was invaded with a demon seed, and it's going to continue doing this until we stop it. And that sister, all of that, I don't want to hear about astrology. She got relaxed. And she was like, yeah, brother, now you're talking my kind of talk, And so I'm saying this to all you melanated chiefs out there, future chiefs. Our women can make that adjustment to get out of this demonic system. But we got to demonstrate to them that we're going to provide them with an alternative. So you still out there trying to be gangsters, shooting at each other, shooting brothers over some nonsense, over control of a block and all that you are doing the demon seed's mission for them. You're killing your own brothers. And we have an alternative to that. So, you need to get with us and join up. And we're going to show you all the metaphysical knowledge of the universe so that you can demonstrate to these women that you are capable of providing and protecting them. That's all they want. They got a lot of other crazy stuff going on, but I've ran into a couple of sisters that are heading up these nations, and they got a lot of emotion. And I'm not saying that our women can't head up our nations, but it's a bit out of balance because it's natural for women to bring a lot of idiosyncrasies into the equation, along with emotions, and drama. And that we cannot use that in the development of a new society. We need it within our foundation, but what I'm finding out, we have a lot of these Aboriginal sisters that are, referring to themselves as Native Americans, and in the construct that they're advocating, they want our men to be emasculated, and I've seen it firsthand. A lot of these sisters, well, you can't prove how your ancestry, how far back you can only go back 3 generations. Yeah, because they were, if you can't go back for 3 or 4 generations, because they were murdered, they were cut off. And a lot of you that can go back to the 1500s or the 1200s, most likely your ancestors cut a deal with these demon seeds. So that does not validate you to be running the collective. So within our collective, we bringing in people from all sorts of the parts of the country, and male and female, and we have a council of elders, and we're going to make the decisions as a collective, and that's how we roll. We done went too far on that topic. It's at 10:50. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Trump administration. What I stated was, okay, why can't you trust the Ox Coalition? Oh, here it is. Wow, I'm still overcoming this code. So basically how come there are no melanated people on the Trump cabinet.
Trump cabinet.
Yeah. But okay, so I got a fact check. There's one brother, and he, a former NFL football star, and hold on, let's see. So he is a Pisces. He's over the housing, urban development. His name is Scott Turner. He's a Pisces born in the year of the rat. Now, you have to understand the challenge of a Piscean, and especially in an environment like this. Pisceans, number one, if he had an NFL contract, he already knows the game plan for the white supremacy slave master of trading athletes, just like they did when slaves were sold. And he fits within this scenario, and he's not going to bulk it, because one of the challenge of the Piscean, even though they are the wise old souls, one of their challenges in this life is to be able to overlook the fact or relax the fact that they can recall their many life experiences, and they seem to be a little bit more mature than most humans, physically, mentally. And so with all of that firepower, they have a tendency to be focused on their own agenda and not the agenda of the collective. And that's one of their challenges. And all other 142 other signs, they have the same challenge. They have different challenges, but that's the particular one of the Pisces. So when I study the administration of a cabinet, this is what we study as astrologers. And this is something that you have to know, that every government, European or Caucasian government structure always have astrologists on their staff to help them analyze what's going on or read the different seasons that we're in, so that they know how to adjust their hypnosis or hypnotic trance on the rest of the population that they want to dominate. All right, so I'm gonna do this real quick because I know my son can weigh in on this as well as I can. So the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he's a Gemini pig. All right, so the Gemini pig has excuse me, a particular challenge. When you're in an environment like that, you're gonna stick with the narrative. Hey man, what's your take on Gemini pig?
For the Secretary of State, that was
yes, yeah, Marco Rubio. Yeah.
That's actually, for the, let's say, for the sake of the position, let's just looking at it objectively, a Gemini pig would probably do good as Secretary of State, because the pig naturally has a sense of government and culture and preservation of such, and the Secretary of State is one of their main jobs is to communicate with other governmental bodies and so forth, and let's say some levels of individuals. So I think, again, the Gemini pig by itself is good for the position, but still we're concerned about the intentions and motivations of the entire cabinet, of the entire party. So right now, I don't see him as a threat just based on the information that you're giving me. So in other words, me sending some level of communication to that Secretary of State, to that Mark Rubio, depending on how we approach them, is going to determine the outcome. On the other end of this, I'm not sure what you say his name is, Marco Rubio.
Right.
I'm not sure what his intentions and motivations are, like I say, when it comes to dealing with different countries around the world on behalf of the United States. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into it. But what I will say objectively is he may be palatable to learning some things about different countries, and also negotiating some reciprocal deals. Believe it or not, all right, believe it or not. So to put this, to conclude this, him being a Gemini pig, being a Secretary of State, let's say for developing Aboriginal governments, want to make contact with the United States to put them on notice, he may be a good shot. All right, that's the best way I can put that without saying too much on there.
All right, so I did an analysis of most of these cabinet members. The Secretary of Treasury over the money is Scott Bessent, and he's a Virgo type. All right, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is a Gemini monkey. Attorney General Pam Bondi is a Scorpio snake. Secretary of Interior is a Leo monkey. That's Doug Burgum.
Secretary of the Interior.
Secretary of the Interior. Okay, so that's the guy that you're going to have to explain to why you're separating from and establishing your nationality as an Aboriginal. All right. Now, that was a little relief, because I do think that the Leo monkey, which is a sign that's balanced with mine, it will understand what you're saying. But my question is the environment that they're in of preserving white supremacy. I have not received any signals from Donald Trump that in his draining the swamp agenda that he wants to eliminate white supremacy. Now, I know that the Democrats have invested a lot in diversity, giving everybody recognition, relief, except for the Aboriginals, who have been voting them in office for the last 5 or 6 decades. I don't, so we're looking in the direction of, when we meet with the United States of corporate America and these so-called representatives, we need to convey to them, first of all, we're not asking you for your permission. We didn't give you permission when your ancestors came over here and murdered our ancestors. We didn't give you permission to deed all of your land and even reproduce the Cabbage Patch Babies to create a culture to take over and deed all of our land to anybody but Aboriginals. We didn't give you that permission to do that. And so we're not seeking your permission. And understand this, we have individuals coming into our collective that are operating on a high frequency to understand, not only do we not need your permission, but we will get protection from a source of beings whose technology far surpass anything in the Pentagon. Understand this, and we know how to make the connection. So, so these are the things that we're advocating. This is why we're calling on the elders in our community, the ones that want to understand how these things are going to manifest. We understand that the burden is on the Aboriginals to initiate this paradigm shift that the entire planet needs to be a part of. I was watching a documentary just last night on plastics, how they are being broken down to the fibers and they're getting into our bloodstream. Plastic.
Microplastics are everything. You know who we should get on here to talk about microplastics?
Who's that?
Patrick.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he knows all about it. Yeah, the microplastics are practically in everything, but there are remedies to it, because you have natural organisms that eat plastics. So we're just gonna have to start implementing those or let's say organic technologies.
Well, and this is the point that we're getting at. If you are in those Caucasian bodies, understand that white supremacy was created to give you an advantage or level the playing field. But the agenda behind the white supremacy is to create products and services that contaminated the earth, you know. And so if you are Caucasian and you want, you would prefer in the next life getting a beautiful melanated body, start working on reversing the damage that was done to this planet because of white supremacy and because it required systems to enslave all of the aboriginals of the planet. It required those systems. And so in order for you to reverse and improve your odds of bringing this planet into balance, these are the things you should be focusing on. And the young man he's talking about, Patrick, he's Caucasian, highly intelligent young brother, but he has the soul of a melanated human. I met him a long time ago, and he's been very consistent, and so we encourage our Caucasian cousins to understand how the universe, how to acquire balance within the universe. Anything else you want to say on that?
Man, no, man, that's a whole new show, and we may need to pin some of those topics for next week. It is 2 past the hour. Unless you got something else, man, I was gonna close the show out and leave them with a cliffhanger for next week, because we do want to talk about that. We do want to talk about whose responsibility is it to start cleaning up all of the environmental damage done by parasitic regimes under these circumstances, and how the Aboriginals are going to help orchestrate and facilitate this cleaning up of our beautiful planet. With that being said, if you don't have anything else, I was going to go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to add, I do know a lot of people they'd be questioning about these signs, and a lot of people that understand what this astrology piece is. Hey man, you do analysis.
Yeah, I do.
A very good analysis. How can they get in touch with you if they want a private reading?
Absolutely. Just reach out to me either on Facebook. Reach out to me on Facebook. It's probably one of the best ways to get in touch with me. My page name is Andre Maurice Amaru Day. Again, it's Andre Maurice Amaru Day. Again, what he's talking about is I do a reading. I call it an astrological consultation. And I don't just do it to tell you about yourself and tell you who you are. I'm very very resolving with my readings. By the end of your reading with me, you practically got a business plan together. Okay. So again, I've been doing it for 25 years and studying astrology and cosmology for 25 years. This is supposed to brag, but I am very good at what I do. I've studied it very intensely for two decades and a half. Okay. Just reach out to me, Andre Maurice Amaru Day. I will do an intensive analysis of your chart of yourself with maybe 2 or 3 different charts. And again, you're gonna come away with a game plan for life. We're going to make sure that you understand what it's going to take for you to be in harmony in your relationships and your career or purpose, your family life, and then also yourself. At minimum, you're going to walk away with that understanding by the time we get done. So again, just reach out to me at Andre Maurice Amaru Day on Facebook.
Okay, Chairman, you are the author of a very intriguing and inspiring book, God's Child. Tell them how to get in touch with, get a copy of your book.
Okay, well, as you say, the title, God's Child, and it's available through Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and also on my website, www.godschildren.biz. Now, like brother said, it's a very spiritual, enlightening book. And it's nothing but facts, no phony lies just to make up so I could sell a book to someone. And the book was created to bring us together. And as you can see, planet Earth is in the middle of this picture. And this is where we're at. And we were put here to come together. So let's be about that business of bringing it together. And I'm quite sure, you know, everyone wants this mostly. I can't say everyone, but the majority of us want it. So get the book, support it, and help bring this to fruition. Thank you.
All right. So as I stated, as we close out, also I talked about why you're seeing a lot of melanated people in commercials. So we're going to lead that over into next week's topic to deal with Black people were designated as consumers and not producers. And I'm going next week. I'm going to tell you the story about my family who were producing raw frozen sweet potato pies and what was done to our family to dismantle or discourage us from becoming producers and hiring people in our own community. We're going to expand on that. But the correlation of you seeing a lot of Black people in these commercials lately, they are still with the Willie Lynch white supremacy ideology of wanting us to be consumers where they control us, continue to enslave us versus producers. We're moving to become both producers primarily and consumers of other products from other Aboriginal tribes. So we're going to expand on that more, as to the correlation, how does that tie into the Trump administration? You can't have a bunch of melanated people sitting around on your cabinet and you're trying to perpetuate white supremacy, taking over lands and saying we're going to build beach resorts and all that sort of thing, and advocating that the people go move somewhere else. That's not prudent. And so you can't have Black folks sitting around on your cabinet going like, what? You can with the Piscean rat, the former NFL, because he understands, hey, I'm in this for me. I got mine. You better get yours. I don't know the brother. If he has a different narrative, I'll be glad to sit down and talk with him. But I'm telling you what I know from NFL players. They are no longer a part of the tribe when they sign one of those professional contracts. They are owned by their owners, and they stay in that if they want to continue well in the limelight and get credits from this Luciferian monetary system. So on that note, I'll pass it back to my son. This has been 1 hour. I know this has been a power-packed presentation, and I'm not feeling the best. I'm still overcoming this virus, but I'll be looking forward to seeing you next week. Hey, man, go ahead and close us out.
All right. Well, it's been a Straight Talk Network show. As usual, we love y'all. Peace out. We see